Meghan Markle's fake bump scandal returns. Anniversary photos spark new fury. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. You are not going to believe what has just happened in the world of Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. Breaking news. Meghan has finally decided to address those persistent, shall we say, fake pregnancy rumors with her latest Instagram post. Now, you'd think after all this time, she'd just put it all to rest, right? Show the world. Put a stop to the whispers. But guess what? She has failed. And she has failed badly. Because there are so many things wrong with this latest attempt, on so many different levels. It's almost hard to know where to start. Let's just jump right into it, shall we? Because this latest move from Meghan, well, it certainly caught my eye, and it seems the eyes of many of you as well. First, let's talk about why this post suddenly appeared. For those of you who don't keep meticulous track of their every move, and honestly, who can blame you? It's their 7-year wedding anniversary. Yes, 7 years of marriage. A lifetime of stories, as she so eloquently puts it. A lifetime of stories indeed. Wouldn't you say? Some might call it a love story. Others might call it a nightmare story. Choose your flavor. Honey. Either way, she put out this post on Instagram full of photos, supposedly celebrating their time together. She even included a little thank you to all of you, whether by our side or from afar, who have loved and supported us throughout our love story. And we appreciate you. Oh, who's really happy here? Guys, that's the real question, isn't it? But this is the thing, right? A lot of you out there, a lot of the eagle-eyed sleuths on Twitter, you've been looking at this post, really looking at it, and you're asking the same questions I am. Is she actually trying to respond to these persistent fake pregnancy rumors with this post? Because if so, she has made things a whole lot worse. She has failed big time. Let's take a little trip down a rabbit hole, shall we? Just a couple of seconds of exploring the reaction to this post. Now, this tweet here, from No Monarch in America at @Queenie61, makes a really good point. She says, and I quote, "Why does Meghan always put out photos that are so far away and blurry?" And you know what? It's a question many of us have asked time and time again, isn't it? Why? Indeed. I wonder why she always makes sure the photos of certain individuals, especially the youngest members of their, shall we say, unit, are always so far away, so blurry, so obscured. Is it because it will be difficult for us, the public, to see whether this alleged picture of Archie and Lilibet is the real Archie and Lilibet? It makes you think, doesn't it? Because let's just put it out there. We all remember when Harry himself, the dutiful father, was turning around and saying that little Lilibet, you know, allegedly little Lilibet, has the same red hair as him, the same ginger locks that run through the Windsor side of the family. Okay, sure, but then, the few times we've supposedly caught a glimpse of her, or the few photos they've released, what do we see? We see a child with hair that looks an awful lot like, well, like young Meghan's hair used to look before she allegedly started altering it. And we've seen photos of young Meghan, haven't we? We've seen that beautiful, full American afro hair that she was born with. We all have different hair types, of course. But the hair we've seen on allegedly Lilibet just doesn't seem to match. Now, look at this picture on the screen right now. This is Meghan Markle as a child. Look at that beautiful, beautiful head of hair. Absolutely stunning, isn't it? So much volume, so much curl. That's part of her heritage, something to be proud of. Now, look back at the blurry photo that's supposedly little Lilibet. Do you see that beautiful American afro hair there? I know I don't. And a lot of you lot out there, you don't see it either. And that raises questions, doesn't it? Big, fundamental questions that they seem completely unwilling or unable to answer with any sort of clear, verifiable evidence. Instead, we get these distant, blurry photos, almost as if they are designed not to be scrutinized, designed not to allow for any sort of comparison or verification. It's very, very interesting. Don't you think? It's almost as if they're trying to hide something, And that brings us back to the other problematic element of this latest Instagram post that has got everyone talking. Thanks to Sue Smith, also known as @LongSolly on Twitter, and she made a really good point, one that echoes the sentiments of so many people who saw this photo wall. She said, and I quote, "For their 7-year anniversary, Meghan decided to show pictures nobody has ever seen, including one trying to prove she actually was pregnant. Tell me you're watching social media without telling me you're watching social media." And she's absolutely right. This feels like a direct response, a desperate attempt to shut down the loudest, most persistent rumors about her. But oh boy, did it backfire spectacularly, because included in this collage, among the carefully curated photos of their seemingly idyllic life away from the toxicity of the monarchy, is what appears to be a sonogram. Yes, a sonogram. A picture supposedly from one of her pregnancies, probably meant to silence the fake bump crowd once and for all. But when you look at it closely, it just raises even more questions. Let's look at this close-up. You see this picture right here? This is the sonogram she included. Now, a real sonogram, one that you'd get from a doctor's office, usually has identifying information on it, right? It has the patient's name, the date, maybe the clinic name, certainly the baby's name, or at least a patient ID linked to the mother. This sonogram, well, it's strategically folded, isn't it? Look at it closely. You can see the crease where the paper is bent over. Why is it folded over? What is she hiding? Is it the name of the mother? Is it the name of the child? Is it the date? Or perhaps, is it proof that this sonogram belongs to someone entirely different? Because, as many have pointed out, this could be anyone's sonogram. It could be a stock photo, for all we know. It could be a sonogram from a friend, from an acquaintance, from someone who has absolutely nothing to do with Meghan Markle or her pregnancies. There's no way to verify that this sonogram is hers, for one of her alleged pregnancies, for one of her alleged children. None whatsoever. The crucial details are completely obscured. And then there's the picture right next to it, supposedly of Meghan herself, looking pregnant, with a hand on her belly, just like all expectant mothers do. A lovely, natural pose. Except, look at the way the bump appears. Look at the strange folds, the unnatural shape. It looks, and again, this is just my opinion, my conspiracy theory, whatever you want to call it, but it looks like a bump that's just, well, stuck on her. Almost like one of those prosthetic bumps. And you can almost see, if you look very closely, where it seems to be attached. See these little lines here, where the shadows are? And here? It really does look like there are wires or straps or some sort of mechanism going around her, fixing this prosthetic bump in place. It doesn't look natural. It doesn't hang naturally. It just looks fixed. It looks like something that's been artificially placed there. And coming from someone who has been dogged by fake bump rumors for years, putting this photo out as proof of her pregnancy is, frankly, astonishing. It's like she's trying to confirm the very rumors she claims to want to put to bed. So, firstly, we've got the photo of the alleged children, blurry, far away, with hair that doesn't seem to match the narrative Harry himself presented. Secondly, we've got the sonogram, conveniently folded to hide any identifying information, completely unverifiable. Thirdly, we've got the picture of her pregnant, which frankly looks incredibly suspicious, like a prosthetic bump held on by straps or wires. Do you see something wrong with this picture? I know I do. Just like with the sonogram. The details are obscured. They look unnatural. We don't really know if that's actually Archie or Lilibet in the ultrasound, because there's no name, no date, nothing to link it definitively to her or her children. And the image of her pregnant just fuels the very theories she's supposedly trying to debunk. It doesn't look like a natural pregnancy bump. It looks fabricated. It looks fake. It looks like something is holding it in place. And we all remember this, don't we? The infamous Bumpgate incident from the 14th of January, 2019. She walked into an event looking visibly pregnant. A significant bump on display. And then she walked out of the very same event just hours later. And that significant bump had well, it had significantly reduced in size, almost vanished. It was like she'd been on a miraculous, super-fast diet and just slimmed down in the space of a few hours. I'd certainly like to know that secret. Wouldn't you? Look at the side-by-side comparison here. Attending the event, leaving the event. The difference is stark. It's undeniable. And for years, people have been asking, how is this possible? Unless, of course, the bump wasn't real to begin with. Unless it was something that could be adjusted. So, when you put all of this together, the history of questionable bumps, the consistently blurry photos of the children, the obscured, unverifiable sonogram, and now this latest photo of her pregnant that looks incredibly unnatural, what conclusion are you supposed to draw? Meghan wants us to believe she's trying to quash the fake pregnancy rumors. She wants us to see this photo wall as proof of their real life, their real children, her real pregnancies. But instead, it just reinforces the deep skepticism that so many people have. It feels less like a genuine sharing of memories and more like a desperate, clumsy attempt at damage control that has backfired terribly. It's almost comical how badly she's failed here. Because if this was her attempt to prove she was actually pregnant, to silence the doubter, to finally put the fake bump theories to rest, she has failed badly. She hasn't provided any proof. She's provided more questions. She's provided more blurry images, more obscure details, more opportunities for people to point and say, see, something isn't right here. And that's why I said at the very beginning, Meghan seemingly has responded to the fake pregnancy rumors on her latest Instagram post. But she has failed. She has failed badly because there are so many things wrong with it, as I've just pointed out to you guys. The blurry children, the obscured sonogram, the suspicious-looking pregnant photo, all against the backdrop of past incidents that have already raised serious doubts. It just doesn't add up. It looks dodgier than ever. So, what do you guys think? Do you believe these photos are genuine proof of Meghan's pregnancies and children? Or do you think, like so many of us, that this is just another attempt to manipulate the narrative, and one that has failed spectacularly, only fueling the very rumors she claims to want to stop? Do you think this is Meghan trying to respond and squash the fake pregnancy rumors, but failing miserably in the process? Let me know in the comments down below. I read all of your comments, and I appreciate you sharing your thoughts and insights. Thank you so much for tuning into this video. I appreciate all your faces and your sharp eyes. And until the next time, you guys, laters.
He did not exist. The Portland Hospital finally confirms Meghan's Archie birth lie. All right, we are diving deep into a topic that has been swirling around like a bad odor for years. And honestly, it's high time we clear the air. We're talking about Archie Harrison Mountbatten Windsor's birth. Yes, that infamous moment at the Portland Hospital, followed by claims so wild they would make your dentures rattle. You see, this couple, Harry and Meghan, they love a good story. And they love a good drama. Everything, it seems, is painted with this thick brush of victimhood and hardship. But what happens when you actually scratch the surface? What happens when you bring in someone who was there, who lived the reality they claim was so uniquely dramatic and challenging? Today, we are beyond fortunate to have Jennifer joining us. Jennifer isn't just another royal watcher. She has first-hand experience at the very place where Archie was supposedly born. And her insights are going to blow the lid off some of the narratives we've been fed. According to Harry's tell-all, after Meghan gave birth, very complicated birth, he insists, they were back at Frogmore Cottage within 2 hours. 2 hours, folks, from central London, where the Portland Hospital is located. But that's not all. Meghan, in her now infamous Oprah interview, threw in another detail about Archie's birth. She mentioned receiving 2 epidurals. She also gave conflicting reasons for why they kept the birth secret from the press. First, she didn't want Paps blocking the emergency room entrance at Portland, a hospital that doesn't even have a standard emergency room entrance like you'd find in, say, a regular NHS hospital or a hospital here in the States. And then, in another breath, She suggested it was because she didn't want photos of the people being racist against her son. And finally, she claimed they did notify the press pool, but nobody came, painting them as rejected and alone. Which one is it, Meghan? It's like a choose-your-own-adventure of questionable claims. And then there's Harry's bizarre anecdote about inhaling the entire tank of laughing gas in the delivery room. This isn't just a funny little detail. It raises serious questions about hospital protocol and safety. Is it standard practice for the father to hog the patient's pain relief? Were there no nurses monitoring the situation? It just doesn't compute with how reputable hospitals operate. Thanks, Jennifer, so much for being here. You actually gave birth at the Portland Hospital back in 2013, right? Jennifer answers, confirming she gave birth there to twins in 2013, and you were classified as a geriatric pregnancy. Weren't you? I know that term can sound a bit jarring, but medically, it applies to pregnancies in women over 35, which Meghan was when she had Archie. Jennifer confirms and talks about her age in delivering twins, highlighting the complexity. Okay, so let's talk about the Portland Hospital itself. There's this myth out there, perpetuated by Meghan, that it has this big emergency room entrance that could be blocked. But is that true? What's the reality of that facility? Jennifer explains Portland is a private hospital, doesn't have a standard ER like in the US, but has specialized units like a NICU and a maternal critical care unit for high-risk mothers. She confirms they would transfer serious emergencies to an NHS hospital. That's a crucial distinction, isn't it? So Meghan's claim about protecting the emergency room entrance from paparazzi doesn't quite hold water if the hospital doesn't have one in the traditional sense for general emergencies. It makes you wonder if that was the real reason for the secrecy, or just another convenient excuse. Now, let's get into the medical side. Meghan mentioned postpartum preeclampsia in a later interview, describing it as a very serious condition. And Jennifer, you unfortunately have personal experience with this as well, don't you? Jennifer confirms experiencing preeclampsia and HELLP syndrome. Details high blood pressure, needing booster shots of magnesium sulfate, and being monitored closely. Wow, that sounds incredibly serious. Jennifer, can you tell us more about what happens when you experience preeclampsia? Especially postpartum, what were the warning signs? And what kind of medical attention did you need? Jennifer elaborates on symptoms like high blood pressure, protein in urine, potential for seizures, HELLP syndrome, blood cell destruction, low platelets, emphasizing constant monitoring by doctors, nurses. She explains magnesium sulfate treatment. Thank you for sharing such personal detail, Jennifer. It really underscores how serious this condition is. Now, based on your experience and what we know about standard medical practice, even in a high-end private hospital like the Portland, if a woman had a complicated birth and developed preeclampsia, even a mild case, what would the typical recovery and discharge timeline look like? Would she be sent home within 2 hours, as Harry claimed? Jennifer strongly states that a discharge within 2 hours is highly unlikely or impossible after a complicated birth and preeclampsia, even a mild case. She reiterates the typical discharge times for vaginal birth, 2 days without complications, and C-section, 3-4 days without complications, and the need for monitoring, especially with preeclampsia risk. Exactly. This is where the story starts to completely unravel. A vaginal birth with an epidural, no complications, is typically 2 days in days in the hospital. A C-section, no complications, is 3 to 4 days. Your experience, Jennifer, having a C-section with twins and preeclampsia issues, saw you discharge the next day, which is even faster than the norm for a C-section, highlighting that every case is different, but still not 2 hours after birth. And let's not forget, Meghan was a geriatric pregnancy when she had Archie, which, as you mentioned, automatically increases the risk level. Doctors are going to be extra vigilant in those cases. They would be monitoring her blood pressure constantly, checking for protein in her urine. These are standard procedures to detect preeclampsia early. So, the idea that she had a complicated birth, potentially involving preeclampsia, had one or even two epidurals, and was somehow cleaned up, stitched up, if needed after a vaginal birth, mobile enough to get dressed, gather her belonging, bundle up a newborn baby, and get in a car for over an hour's drive back to Frogmore Cottage, all within 2 hours of giving birth? That doesn't just sound unlikely. It sounds medically impossible. Think about it. The hospital staff at the Portland are renowned for their meticulous care. Their reputation depends on it. They wouldn't discharge a patient with a complicated birth and a serious medical condition like preeclampsia so quickly. It would be negligent and risk their entire business. This isn't some back alley clinic. It's a top-tier maternity hospital. Let's also touch on Harry's claim about the laughing gas. Were there always medical staff present in the room during your labor at the Portland, Jennifer? Especially when pain relief was being administered? Jennifer confirms staff are very attentive, especially in a private hospital setting. Right. So the image of Harry freely inhaling the patient's pain relief without a nurse present to monitor dosage and ensure safety feels highly improbable, if not downright dangerous and against hospital policy. It adds another layer of theatrical embellishment to a story that already strains credulity. And the Nando's run to then add 2 a.m. Most Nando's locations in the UK are closed by 10 or 11 p.m. Did Harry dispatch his royal security detail, who were supposed to be protecting his high-risk, recently delivered wife and newborn, to go on a late-night chicken run to a closed restaurant? It's such a bizarre, unnecessary detail that only serves to make the entire narrative seem less believable. It's almost as if these details were added for dramatic effect, but weren't properly fact-checked against reality. It all circles back to the central contradiction: the claim of a serious, complicated birth requiring significant medical intervention and monitoring, immediately followed by a seemingly miraculous, impossibly fast recovery and return home. These two narratives are fundamentally incompatible with medical reality and typical hospital procedures. Then Meghan talks about suffering quietly and having to face the public right after birth. Well, she didn't face the public after Lilibet's birth during COVID lockdowns, did she? That birth was kept completely private. The whole facing the public expectation is tied to the traditional royal role, which they chose to leave. And let's be honest, even when Kate steps out hours after giving birth at the Lindo wing, she's had medical attention, rest, and likely significant help getting ready. That image isn't of a woman who was just discharged after a complicated birth and rushed out the door. And why bring up postpartum preeclampsia in such a vague, almost throwaway manner years later, without offering any context or details, especially if it was a truly serious condition? As Jennifer mentioned, it's a serious medical issue, and millions of women experience it. Talking about it responsibly could raise awareness and help others. But simply dropping the term in a conversation about unrelated struggles feels performative and, frankly, disrespectful to those who have genuinely suffered its severe impacts, including potentially fatal ones. Let's look at this comment shared by Richard Bradford, who is an earl whose wife works at the Portland. He directly contradicts the Sun's claim that they couldn't contact anyone at the hospital about Archie's birth. The Daily Mail did contact him the day before to check, and he was able to tell them his wife hadn't delivered Archie. This suggests that the press was able to get information, and that Harry's claim that nobody came after they notified them is, at best, misleading. It looks more like the couple chose to withhold information, which they have the right to do, but then fabricated reasons and blamed the press/palace for their own choices. It paints a picture, doesn't it? A picture of a narrative carefully constructed for maximum drama and sympathy, but one that falls apart under the slightest scrutiny, especially when confronted with real-world experience and established facts about the very hospital they used. The story of Archie's birth, as told by Harry and Meghan, with the incredibly fast return, the 2 epidurals, the strange laughing gas incident, and the shifting reasons for secrecy, simply doesn't add up. It's riddled with inconsistencies that someone with actual experience at the Portland hospital, like Jennifer, can immediately spot. What do you make of these inconsistencies? Have you or someone you know experienced preeclampsia or given birth at the Portland? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. When you look at the whole picture, the speed of the claimed return, the medical details that don't align with standard recovery, the bizarre anecdotes, the changing stories about the press, and the fact that Harry is the only supposed witness to some of the most dramatic moments, it's hard not to be skeptical. It raises the question, why fabricate or exaggerate these details? What purpose does it serve to tell a story that is so easily debunked by reality and medical knowledge? Is it simply to enhance the narrative of suffering and hardship, to make their break from the monarchy seem more justified? From my perspective, and echoed by Jennifer's first-hand experience, the Archie birth story, as presented by Harry and Meghan, stretches the bounds of belief. It confirms a pattern of embellishment and inconsistency that makes it incredibly difficult to trust their narratives, especially when they touch upon serious topics like medical conditions. If you found this discussion insightful, please give this video a like and subscribe to Royal Riffraff for more deep dives into the royal family's headlines and behind-the-scenes stories. Thank you again to Jennifer for sharing her valuable insights and experience. Her perspective provides much-needed clarity on a situation that has been shrouded in conflicting claim. Have a great day, everybody! This absolutely disgusting insider grills Meghan for exploiting ghost kids with fake photo. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. I am going to be talking to you about something that has accumulated over several years. I'm going to be giving you some insight into these children, and I'm going to give you a bigger picture to look at, as I always want to give a different perspective and not talk about the same things that other people are talking about when it comes to the royal family. Meghan and Harry, these children. And to also just kind of give you something to think about that can yield what we've all been suspecting around these children. It's quite fascinating. Oh yes, and that is what we're going to be talking about today. Let's get into it. Now, let's go to just this most recent social media post that Meghan did on her Instagram around her son Archie. Or this child, Archie, okay? If we look at this picture of Archie is very suspect. And you almost have to wonder, well, why? Why is there so much controversy around this picture? Everything from the setting of the picture to the timing of the picture, the child in the picture, the location of the picture. There's a lot of controversy around it. And for those that don't follow it as closely, you won't know this, but this is always the case around the photos that Meghan releases. Because there's always something a little bit off around the photos that she releases. And that's what I want you to think about. But we're going to go a little bit deeper. Folks, we're going to go a little bit deeper. Not just look at the surface of the photo. We're going to look deeper into the psychological and what the ramifications of such said photos could be for these children that are out there somewhere. Because it does hold weight. This photo that you're looking at, it is conveying a lie. It is conveying a very sinister and nefarious idea. This photo is not a matter of fact or what Meghan has wanted people to believe that it is. And it's almost like you have to even put Harry in this context, because he is somewhat complicit in that he doesn't put a stop to it. Now, one thing I want you to also understand is that in California law, when you have children who are in, when there's photos of children, oftentimes you'll see the children's faces blurred out because you can only show the photos of a child's face if both of the parents agree that you are allowed to do that. And that's why a lot of times you'll only see the backs of the children or the foot or the side profile of these children because Meghan doesn't have permission from Harry to show the full frontal version of the child. But she'll do it to go against the wishes of Harry because she doesn't need his permission to take pictures that are not of the face of the child. So I'd created for the kids these email addresses that's sort of like names again that you would never guess that I will give them at some point in their lives when they're older. But before I go to bed almost every night, I email them. Now, I know why Meghan said during the podcast that she writes emails to her children. And the reason is very suspect to me. Because I thought at the time, why would you write emails, right? Otis, why would you write emails to your children almost every day if what you have on your phone? We have a time capsule in our phone. We have a time capsule of photos and video and memories that are visually and audible. Why would you say that you're writing emails? That seems almost archaic compared to what you have on your phone and your device that you use every day to capture moments with your children to show them when they're older. I mean, I still do it. I still share photos of my children from like 10 years ago that I captured on my phone of when they were younger. And we laugh and we have great memories around their childhood with the things that are on my phone. And you almost have to think it just doesn't seem right that Meghan would make it. Or say she does things around this time capsule for her children by sending them emails. Why not just do a video? Hey, Archie, you know what you did today? Archie, what you did today? You actually went and made me fall down the stairs when you tripped me. I was so upset with you. I gave you a timeout and whatever, yada, yada, yada. Why not just pick up a phone and the amount of work that it would go into sitting down at your computer and typing up what happened earlier in the day? And then expecting that your children will actually read that and get out of reading what happened the same way that they would get out of seeing it in a video or of the mother speaking and saying what happened. It doesn't make sense. But I think I know why Meghan wanted to set that as what she does. It's because it could come out later. All of the deception that Meghan has done around the photos of her children. So much so that Neil Sean was even reporting that this is a common thing that a lot of celebrities do as a protection of their own children. They actually use different children to show in their posts so that their children and their real identity is protected from crazies. And they can use the casting of children to make it look like they're part of their family. Because how do you think it would be conveyed for these children later in life when they are older, as they grow, and they understand the social media posts that their mother did of them as children that really aren't them? Do you think they're opening these children up for ridicule and persecution by their peers when they see that their mother played all of these games and made up all these lies about who they are in these photos? Because it doesn't make sense. A lot of the photos that we see that are supposed to be of these children. I even go so far as to think that even the birth of Archie, when they first came out with this photo of Archie as a tiny baby, was not really a child. And I did a video on it. Here is where I'll leave the video. Watch it. I did a deep dive on it. And so, Meghan is playing a lot of very grown-up games with her children and their identity for the whole world to see that could later backfire on these children when they're old enough to be in communication with their own peers and to be made fun of, and to be ridiculed, and to be talked about as if your mother's crazy and making it look like this was you, and it really wasn't you, and lying and trying to paint a perception of who our children are that's really not her children. Because at this point, it's no longer a little subtle photo of a different child. It's blatant lies and hypocrisy and clear deception of who these children really are. Because you can't tell me by looking at some of these photos that these are the children that are supposed to be Archie and Lilibet. Not only that, the naming of the children. Did you know that the name Archie is actually the code name for Prince George? Yeah, that's a common practice that you have a code name for security reasons for your children. So Meghan stole the code name for Prince George, which is Archie, to name her own son Archie. As perhaps maybe a dig at William and Catherine, to bully them, sort of speak, to take their child's code name for her own? Or even the name Lilibet, which was a name that was given to the late Queen Elizabeth because she wasn't able to pronounce her full name Elizabeth. And it sounded like Lilibet. And so it became a childhood nickname for the late Queen that really was special. And it was something that belonged to the Queen. And even the Queen talked about how they've taken so much from me. And even her name was taken from her. Her childhood pet name. And Meghan and Harry did not have permission to name their child the pet name of the late Queen. Elizabeth? Yes, but not Lilibet. Lilibet was a name that was supposed to be endearing and very private name for the late Queen. But yet again, Meghan stole it for her own child. So there's a great amount of mystery around these children. There is a great amount of deception and playing of who the children really are and making people believe that's your child when it really isn't your child. Using these very grown-up games with your children, exploiting them, using them to sell your jams, using them to stay relevant in the news, using your children to make money. You think the scrutinizing of Harry and Meghan is bad now? Wait till the children become older and the media starts to scrutinize their every move. That's the game. That's the motive. That's the foundation of which Meghan is planting. She's planning that to be done by the deliberate and very contrived, intentional way of releasing photos. That it is something that will continue as these children get older and become adults. They too will be uncovering and realizing a lot of the deception that their mother did. And you almost have to think, what kind of mother is this sinister? What kind of mother would do these things to their child? To set them up for failure and scrutiny and bullying and being teased later in life. You know, the games of you're playing with your children with these games is not a smart thing to do. I don't care what you're trying to sell. You leave your children out of these kinds of actions that will later come back to bite them. But time will tell, and we'll have to wait and see what happens. But it hasn't gone away yet. And I can't imagine that in this age of social media that it ever will. Because as they say, the internet is forever. And with that, I will see you all in the next one. Bye.